Hi, time for another episode of The Thought Project, just so you know. And today we're going to be starting out with Ciara's song Big Freedia, Winning. I'm going to dance a little.
Ciara, Big Freedom. You too blessed now to be stressing on it. Let your wings out, let them pepper from it. When you're cold, just put some pressure on it. Now you're winning, 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 winning. Put your hands up, get your blessing, baby. Walk it out, be honest, step on it. Girl, you came up, yeah, get your effort up. Now you're winning, 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 winning.
Fix my crown in the morning. Heaven keeps raining on me. They say I cannot outperform it. I don't even try. You see, God don't play about me. I think He's playing favor. Ain't nothing but light around me. I walk it on the sky. Think it hard, I know. Don't let them bring you down. Show me, girl, I know.
Okay, so that's as much as we're going to do for that song today. I'm not going to go through a whole song because I'm trying to shorten down the shows. I'm going to go straight into the issues with China's stock market this morning was listed at a 5.5% rally, but that's actually negligible because there have had too many people cutting out of their markets, as we noted in previous episodes for you. And what I mean by that is that there are literally just too many investors leaving. And their PMIs are weak. Rates, accounts, growth estimates, as well as liquid assets are weak. And there's actually no one who's really going to see them through this, to be honest, with the way they behaved. So, New Zealand's Frontier dairy exporter said demand is down from China. There's a couple other companies that also cited dairy demands were down. There's just a way of saying, like, China just isn't really producing anything for themselves, and they're not even requesting it from other people when they need it or used to need it. So, Australia has said that they're going to go back to trade with China once the country drops tariffs on their meat, wine, and timber. As far as the U.S. economy goes, we're not necessarily like way up there with our dollar, but it's one of those things where we're just kind of looking at, a little bit of depression, like jobs and hiring, and like our food prices have gone up, but they've sort of stopped going up. The inflation has stopped. And then, like, you have some housing prices that come down in the more expensive areas. They've gone up a little bit. The cheaper areas, are they the same? No. There's still a lot of doomsday articles out there right now about the economy, and the truth of it is that, things just aren't the same as they were a long time ago, like 20 years ago, but there's no reason to be completely upset about it either or to get down. You just have to keep moving through it. We're certainly not in the same position that some other countries are in. So it is positive that China is having these kinds of issues for us because of the way they've treated us as a country. U.S. manufacturing is up. Noting all that, when I was at the beach this weekend, I got word that a couple of the labor unions are tied to the auto workers groups are thinking about striking. I hope they don't. Maybe it's not true. It was just word in the street. Might not be true. So, moving on to Ukraine. The Ukraine announced today that they had taken out the Panzer missile defense system the Russia runs, and they also attacked the Kursk airfield with drones and have been successful in taking back land in Crimea. And it's important to note that, the U.S. is generally aligned with Ukraine. One thing that bothered me was that I ran into somebody who I thought was a decent American citizen and a patriot who started trying to tell me that the Ukraine was just going to end up like Afghanistan or these other countries, and that's a really unfair comparison. And then I realized she's actually Russian American. Maybe not even American at all. Maybe just a Russian woman that I think lives in the U.S. Maybe she lives in Moscow. But if somebody gets really negative about the Ukraine like that, I just don't trust them. And it was because I was in the D.C. here for so long and I met too many assets that was what I realized, is that the Russians were deliberately trying to affect U.S. policy, so we turned on all these countries that we'd helped get away from them. Just remember that. Like, don't turn on the Ukraine. It's not their fault. Notably, the Russian Navy returned home as of today after a 13,000-kilometer trip around the Pacific, and the Russian warships had been traveling with the Chinese CCP Navy. There was a conflict over the weekend where we were supposed to be doing a training exercise. The U.S. Navy was with the Australian Navy, and 3 Marines were killed. I don't know if there's a direct connection. We're not supposed to be at war. Ugh, allergies, sorry. But nobody's really saying anything more than that. We were out doing training exercises. Russia and China were out. Some of our guys got killed. So, but the Russian Navy has returned home. So that's how that turned out. Anyway, it's always sad when U.S. soldiers get killed out in the field. That's what it basically means. There's a new poll from the Associated Press from the Center for Public Affairs Research, which says that Joe Biden is too old to be an effective president and that Donald Trump needs to grow up at 77 years old. And 77% of the people polled, that's what they said on Biden. 89% of them were Republicans, 69% of them were Democrats. And the article also discusses that these guys are both seen as too old to be real leaders. I do have to know that some of the people interviewed in the article and cited, because this came from the AP, were from Alexandria, where I used to live. Alexandria police were actually fairly decent. Not corrupt and crazy like the Arlington police, who suck, basically. I mean, suck like quantum physics, like exponentially suck. Even if they fired a bunch of them, I'll always don't move to Arlington. I never recommend it. So let's move on. So we're going to talk about some other stuff here really quickly as far as the show goes. I am now getting traffic from the U.S.A, Canada, India, Estonia, and Puerto Rico, which is why I make references to people not being from the U.S. sometimes in the show. The gender as identified is 90% men, like almost like it's 90.09% men, and it's like 16% female. Those numbers don't quite add up correctly, but that's what it's supposed to be. So you figure out however you want, because numbers can be really weird. And then the age of 18 to 24 years is 33.2%. So I'm getting the young kids 25 to 34 years at 29%, 35 to 44 years at 29%, and 55 to 64 years at 8.7%. So if you're wondering who else watches this show, age-wise or how they identify age-wise and gender-wise, that's who's watching. We need to note that I'm going to move on from that, but please keep subscribing and encouraging people to subscribe to the show, because that's how I keep moving up on YouTube. So, Donald Trump's election interference trial is set for March 4th, 2024. That's Judge Tanya Chitkins? Whatever. It's set for March 4th, 2024. So the judge could always change. Let's note something here. Just for me. Let's see. We're going to talk about King Charles for a minute. He's decided to welcome his brother Prince Andrew back into the family. And at the same time, he has also announced that he does not want to see Meghan Markle and Prince Harry anymore. So that's what's going on with the royal family of England. I just want to make sure you know that, because it kind of has an effect on the rest of the Commonwealth countries that are tied to it, which involves Canada, Australia, and India, at least. And I think Thailand as well. So I want to go into something else here. You know, one thing I saw with women's trends over the years, I couldn't figure this out, is why so many women don't want to change with the trends. And it seemed to me that they don't want to change. I finally figured out they didn't want to change the trends they thought were coming out of Hollywood. And it has to do with the fact that Hollywood has been so associated with, you know, people are aware, savvy, like the same reason they want to go to movies. There's so many front groups that are associated with being Nazis, and literally these groups of people, you know, Russian, Iranian, Chinese, that just really hate the U.S. And that's not to say somebody from one of those countries couldn't like the U.S., but I'm talking about their mafia. So don't get twisted. Keep it straight. You know, people that really don't believe in diversity, really hateful towards the U.S. and other countries, they don't want to be associated with, so they don't have to change the trends. Here's my advice. I had a lot stolen from me, and I'm not one of those people, so you follow whatever current trends you want to. But make sure whenever you're aware that you're really comfortable with it and you actually really like it, and it's not something that's just being pushed on you from somebody else. And at the same time, like, we all have a right to not feel sort of abused, because I saw with some of the people I knew from Hollywood, like, I was at one of these fake friend shows just for a while in the DC area trying to figure out what was going on. A bunch of old men told me they want me dressing attractively or to look decent because they don't want me competing with Hollywood celebrities. Can you imagine? That's like really, really stupid and weird. So just don't let yourself get to a place where you're like oppressed in some weird way, like wherever you live, because this goes on all over the country. And that's what I mean by the fact there's really a problem with Hollywood. You know, I was joking around to a friend and I said, I think those ropes that they put up at the premieres and stuff are to protect the rest of us from them, because they really do want to attack a lot of us. And he said, and vice versa. I said, I don't think so. I think you really, like, as someone who has been attacked and beat up by people from Hollywood who had the dare to come out of like, they can't stand California, they want to come to DC, they want to come to other cities and attack people. It's been a problem in Chicago, Baltimore, DC, other cities. You know, it's a problem in Dubuque. Really hostile from foreign countries, and they hate all of us, and they just want to steal material to run these front organizations so they can traffic kids, traffic women, traffic dogs, sell drugs. You know, the problem there is you're looking at somebody that is essentially a hostile and dangerous. And so we can jokingly say that those ropes are to protect us from them, but I think they are. I don't think anyone would want to be at a Hollywood premiere. I thought the parties and events I went to in DC were way better because they were authentic. People were genuinely happy. I miss my friends that I had these year, the parties we used to have, because we had great parties. We were genuinely happy. Having been to some of the Hollywood events when I was younger and wanting to leave because they were horrible, or just completely Vanity Fair-esque horrible events. If you know what a Vanity Fair really means, you'll understand why. Because a Vanity Fair means it's something that there's a lot of effort put into, and it just is gross and majestically lacking in meaning and value in the end. So that's the point of the term Vanity Fair. But you have to understand that, like, I had some really great times. I remember I was working at one place where it turned out I had a boss that was actually Russian. And she tried to pretend she was black. She called herself Maisha. But her real name was a Russian named Masha. I couldn't go to a fabulous party New Year's Eve one year when I was working there because she was so crazy she was going to attack people and kill them over it. And she got in trouble for it in track. She got fired from her job for being that insane. But that's the whole point. She was a Hollywood person, and she was always trying to pretend she had all these great events to go to. She actually didn't. The truth is, most Americans like going to parties with your friends and your family, or wherever you go, where you are genuinely joyful and have your own decorations, are probably more fun than those events and anything you will ever see on these supposed red carpets, which is when most Americans know that, which is why they don't tune in anymore to the major award shows. On top of the fact people being aware that they steal, lie, the grotesqueness, the stealing, the Russian mafia crap, all of it. And what was weird about my situation, where I was constantly, for a long time, having to meet with them and being told that I had to work for free for this agency and working for Kendrick for free and not getting paid and getting beat up, was that they were desperate to try to get people back and try to force me to plan things. The worst part is that they were so pathetic that even like as of the last Met Gala, people were still wearing clothing items that I had put together for them. They don't have anyone to design or work for them. And so there was a movement. The Brazilian intel is actually, from Brazil, actually the ones that figured out how much work I was having to do. And they were the ones that came up with how to deal with it. And there's a lot of designers that have been asked to provide things for free. And at least celebrities used to go to the red carpet and identify who dressed them, so the person at least got a promotion. They stopped doing that. They don't promote people anymore. Not one of these people that I've ever dressed has ever come forward and said that I did their costuming or clothing. They just took it and was like, as if they were owed it. That's how you know they're spoiled Russian mafia, because they're acting like spoiled brats who think they're just owed everything and don't have to work for it. So what Brazilian intel came forward with, because Buffalo Bill and Kendrick's former mistress, now was a man, now a wife, lives as a woman, were saying is they were trying to say because they were trans that they deserve things for free. So of course the Department of Justice, they went from being transitioned from being people who were like trying to blame me for everything and were really kind of mean in the 2000s when we had more problems with Buffalo controlling one of the people further up in the Bush administration. It wasn't Bush's fault, but it was actually a problem with the person being planted. By the early 2010s, it became, well, why can't we have stuff for free? And what's going on? Are you being racist working for them? And I said, no, I'm being beat up and trafficked and I'm not getting paid. And so the change from there became, well, they're racist and rude and they don't deserve things for free. It's time to shut up. Brazil had gotten involved at that point and said, we know how to handle this. Because in Brazil, they have carnival and all kinds of events with fantastic models and people, and then not so fantastic people and dictators who have bizarre relationships and make weird demands. And they are not short on bizarre models with different sexual identities that want things for free. And they have no problem saying, we don't really care what you identify as, you're not allowed to ask for things for free. And there was a general movement, I think, among a lot of fashion designers and other creatives to just say, no, you know, things are free. So instead of it being like, oh, it's the horrible mafia, and they're so awful, they're so mean, they're beating everyone, they're ready to kill, it just became, you know, yeah, they might beat you up or whatever, but they're pathetic dorks who don't have any money. They're losers who don't know how to dress themselves. Like, what kind of weird adult can't dress themselves for an event? And I began to practice that myself in my 30s, you know, as part of saying no. It's just, no, I'm not going to dress you. Like, I know how to dress myself for an event. All I have to do is tell me what the dress code is, or if there's some kind of color restriction or something. I know how to get dressed for an event. These people clearly do not. And they don't deserve free costuming. They need to come up with their own. Get your own. And so that was, well, Kendrick's former, you know, or current wife, whatever person has been handled, is basically just told to grow up and get her own. The idea of somebody from a Peruvian drug cartel who's overly spoiled and weird demanding free things is not new. But the concept of us, instead of being freaked out and weirded out by them, just saying, you're a loser who can't dress yourself, get over it. If you're supposed to be an artist, then be one. You know, that's kind of a newer thing. And it started like 10 years ago as a concept, but it's fully in effect today. I just don't have time for people. I don't care if it's a wedding or whatever it is. Don't ask me to dress you. Dress yourself. You don't come to professional artists and ask to be dressed for free. Nothing is free. And frankly, even just citing them, you know, it just isn't enough. Now, at least when you cite somebody like influencer relationships, I'll cite something, a gift somebody has given me or whatever. At least I'm giving them something in return for having given it to me. But there's been too many situations where people haven't been cited at all, and then there's just been too many designers who've gotten tired of it because of the cost of the products involved and not being actually paid for. It's one thing for somebody to give you a little sample or a small product and have you influence or like cite it, you know what I mean, or credit them. It's a really big problem when it's worth like thousands of dollars, and they're just getting it totally free, and then they, in many cases, don't even bother to actually give credit. So, but the point is that this person was just a ridiculous idiot who didn't have any life skills or a brain and was like just demanding and screaming even at the US government that they want everything for free. It was really weird. And I have to note for you, as far as US law goes, don't bother people who are being investigated or witnesses or laws in all 50 states. You really cannot follow around after people asking them stupid questions about major investigations or as a witness. And there was actually a woman who was one of my sorority sisters at Luther College, which I left, but she was dumb enough to ask me a bunch of really dumb questions. And to the point where I think even her own people, the Russian mafia, literally are mad at her because she just talked too much and she made fun of victims and deliberately tampered with federal investigations. Like, she was the kind of person who wanted Epstein to just keep right on raping little girls, which is really gross. So, you know why I left the sorority. We need to get into something else here. Lotto, the rapper, they only got a little bit of material and she's really bad. I think her next performance has been canceled coming up, but she ran off with a bunch of people's social security numbers when she was working in the federal government. And I think she still has them and she's still at large. So somebody needs to arrest her. She was working for Cersei, Patricia, Dan, Buffalo Bill, Kendrick. Way past time for that one to go home. She doesn't need to be out trying to fund her tours, her niece's tours with everybody else's money, which is what she's been doing. And then we do have to go through another issue here before I kind of close up, which is that, one of the other issues with Patricia, Buffalo Bill, Cersei, and Wilhelm is that they've set up a number of, and Kendrick, with his fake followed agency, have set up a number of people to be falsely imprisoned. And so when you talk about prison ministry in the U.S. and all that, it's really getting into this issue of the fact that there's a number of people that through economic disadvantages have been falsely imprisoned and falsely accused. And somebody with money, especially the Russian mafia, there was time where the Russian government was influencing more of our policy like they were in the 2000s. I mean, that's why these women of the D.O.J. were trying to accuse me and saying that I was supposed to be blamed for everything when I was a victim. That's Russian law, and it changed by the 2010s, but that's because John Ashcroft went in and identified all the fruitcakey women and then had them fired. So you need to kind of remember that there's been a lot of cleaning out done that's changed policy. Do I think the DOJ today is perfect? No. Do I think, there was an issue with literally people still being in place when I was trying to get my order against Cersei and Wilhelm even at the age of 39? And, would any of these people try to come back today and try to get free material again and not pay for it after millions? Yeah. Part of my issue when I was younger was I kept writing different people thinking they weren't part of that network and thinking they'd actually pay me, and it was hard to get contracts, and I just had to get to the point where even before it got ugly, I just said, look, can't do a contract for payment or whatever, just expect things to be free, then we're just not doing anything, we're not talking at all, and goodbye. You're just gross, you're a stupid loser, dork person who can't do anything. So, you want to say you're an artist, but there's no artistry to you, and that's kind of the general point, is like, you're looking at the situation with Lizzo, this performer. She's got a countersuit on her dancers for malicious prosecution. I don't think that's going to work out. And her attorney is Marty Singer, and the dancer's attorney is Ron Zantrano. There's also been a suit for 14 dancers after she used intimate footage of them in her HBO documentary Love Lizzo. And there was no consent for them to be filmed, and that was all shared. The film was a bunch of intimate feelings, maybe even intimate footage. After the footage came out of her talking so dirty in those interviews, I have no doubt that there could have been even worse in those films. I didn't bother to watch it. But the point is that she's trying to countersue now for malicious prosecution. Here's the thing. Lizzo didn't write her own material. Didn't create any of it. And there's been some signs put forward by other designers and people involved to show that, but I really don't think it's become clear enough, and it's really important to know that she's just another person that's part of the Russian mafia. It's going to be like, goodbye. Just goodbye. And So all these events with actors and actresses and singers and people being attacked, and apparently now J.Lo's getting fans are finally turning on her and talking about how creepy she is and talking about how over photoshopped and too much makeup she is. She's fake, honey. Look, a long time ago I confronted a bunch of these guys with their weird stuff because like Dan photoshops way too much on people, but by the time you put on a fake Photoshop mask and you put on a bunch of makeup and a fake name and a synthesizer voice and a fake career and everything's fake, you're looking at a ghost. You're looking at a KGB FSB operative, and that's what they are. Way too much money spent on all of it. And there's no reason to do that much. Like everybody could use a little retouching, right, for their pictures. Everybody can. Everybody can. But the idea that there would be that much put into it is a dead-on clue that you're dealing with somebody who's actually an operative. So that's what you need to know about Lizzo. She's just another KGB, FSB, wannabe performer. No reason to be jealous of Hollywood shows or even to really bother with them. I literally had a friend last week who went to see a movie, one of the ones that's come out of the summer. She said she was going to have a drink. I literally messaged her and said, "Are you okay?" Like, I want to make sure she wasn't suicidal. Because this is not stuff you should be going to see. Not worth your time. It's not worth time to be jealous of. Like, ugh. I mean, I've had some fun parties with friends where we ran New Year's Eve shows in the background, but none of them are compared to the actual parties I had with my friends where we went out and had a good time. And I mean, there's stuff on TV. And even the parties I had with my friends where we ran the shows in the background were still better than that stuff. Like, I guarantee you, anything you do in your regular life in the U.S. joyfully is way better than whatever these people are doing. Because their events suck. And that's part of the reason that they're so aggressive and so hateful towards U.S. citizenship. And it's important to know as we head towards these conflicts that are coming up with Russia and China are ratcheting up and going higher and higher, and their economies are going lower and lower, that there's going to be more attacks coming out of the Hollywood establishment that is essentially Russian mafia, that they really are hostile towards the rest of us. So, just recognize it when you see it, filter it for yourself, change the channel, change the webpage, like whatever. I'm going to end today with a song by Adele, Hello. I hate to say it, I actually wrote the original song and didn't get any credit or payment for it, and I wrote it for my mom. It's kind of sad, but, I have no idea how justice works out, but I know that there's karma in the world. I know there's a whole, like, all these people that I've named and given aliases to don't have a way of making an income anymore because they don't have anyone to traffic anymore for material. And that's their fault. So whatever happens to them, it's really their problem. But I think a lot of artists getting attacked, like quote-unquote fake artists getting attacked on stage, lawsuits, all that stuff is kind of like the goes around, come around effect. And, we'll see what happens with Biden and Donald Trump. It kind of looks like neither one of them is going to be president, but we're a little far out still to see. So we'll see how things kind of shake out or work out in the end. So I'm going to sing Hello originally performed by Adele. I think Adele's the other one's going to go away, by the way. She stole too much. Hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all these years you'd like to meet to go over everything. They say that time's supposed to heal you, but I ain't done much healing. Hello, can you hear me? I'm in California dreaming about who we used to be when we were younger and free. I've forgotten how it felt before the world fell at our feet. There's such a difference between us and a million miles. Hello from the other side. I must have called 1,000 times to tell you I'm sorry for everything that I've done. But when I call, you never seem to be home anymore. Hello from the other side. At least I can say that I've tried to tell you I'm sorry for breaking your heart. But it don't matter, it clearly doesn't tear you apart anymore. Hello, how are you? It's so typical of me to talk about myself, and I'm sorry. I hope that you're well. Did you ever make it out of that town where nothing ever happened? It's no secret that the both of us are running out of time. So hello from the other side. I must have called 1,000 times to tell you I'm sorry for everything that I've done. But when I call, you never seem to be home anymore. Hello from the other side. At least I can say that I've tried to tell you I'm sorry for breaking your heart. But it don't matter, it clearly doesn't tear you apart anymore. Ooh, anymore. Ooh, anymore. Hello from the other side. I must have called 1,000 times to tell you I'm sorry for everything that I've done. But when I call, you never seem to be home anymore. Hello from the other side. At least I can say that I've tried to tell you I'm sorry for breaking your heart. But when I tell you, never seem to be home anymore. It don't matter, it doesn't tear you apart anymore. Ooh, get off there. I hate that when commercials interrupt my show. Stay out of my show. Anyways, oh, by the way, I would just like to say as a little mini collab, if I can find it. Oh, here it is. I'm hanging out downstairs. Forest Factor, I've been working with them over the summer. They've been sending me vitamins and products, and it's a collabs. Just a little collab. I really like the products, so it's easy for me to collab with them, and no, I would not call this a paid promotion. They're just sending me stuff to try out, but I think it's really good stuff. This is their mushroom powder, little health vitamin series. So anyways, hope you're having a good day. And that was my rendition, my version of the song Hello that was originally performed by Adele. And that's all I have to say for today. So have a good one. I'll see you next time. Thanks. That was a thought project, just so you know.